Good afternoon, B3L. We're doing a Discord public session here. Going to try and get these as often as possible. We didn't get any last week. I was quite under the weather with some kind of stomach virus. Not a lot of fun, but we're back and ready to kick it off. For those of you that don't know, today was a pretty interesting day in the realm of Blur. They introduced their next phase or the next item that they've added, and that's called Blend, and that's a bidding platform which has been released on three collections to start: Milady, Azuki, and CryptoPunks. I've really just kind of focused on the two collections of significance. I think Milady maybe is in there because of um, they're more of a trader's PFP, if you will, beyond other things. But with Azuki and Punks, basically it's providing liquidity to those holders to be able to lend their NFT on a peer-to-peer basis and be able to achieve returns. And on the flip side of that, people are able to buy these NFTs at a reduced rate for a fee. Now, what makes this really interesting is that these can be called at any point in time. And I'm looking here live right now. Of course, this is changing pretty frequently. So, but like for about 2 ETH, you could get a Azuki at about I think about a 14% APY. But like I said, can be called at any point in time. So the lender may say, okay, I need to get my liquidity back. I need to call on my loan, and that is automatically paid out to them. What then happens is that that loan goes into a bidding pool or lending pool, and others are able to bid on it. If no one picks that up, then it goes to a form of auction. And this is how I understand it. So I may not have all the details lined up yet, but it goes into a bit of an auction pool, and then it is essentially liquidated unless you can cover the full cost of that NFT. So that is a risk. And the scenario I laid out here just a few moments ago is that maybe someone like Machi comes in and offers some great lending on a collection, and puts up 100 of them at a 7% APY or 5% APY, and they're picked up. He then comes around and he calls all those a week later, and now they are all forced to go into the lending pool, and Azuki holders do not want to pick it up for whatever reason, and then therefore those NFTs now go into liquidation, and now you have 100 150 holders that cannot afford to buy the NFT outright, and now they are forced to sell that Azuki or Punk or Milady immediately. And floor price may be down, and it causes a bit of a floor price tank, and then Machi comes back in afterwards and sweeps them up, buying them up, etc., whatever the case may be, after that floor price tank. So a bit of a open up door opportunity for some volatility, maybe some additional market manipulation. Often we've seen this Blur incentivized market conditions kind of play a little bit of havoc on collections and floor prices. No example has been better than what's happened with Punks. Punks was pretty much the most stable collection out there for really a period of say 6 months, and as soon as they were able to be traded on Blur, they had this short-term pump and then a bit of a tank thereafter. Of course, there's other market conditions at play there, but it has introduced more volatility. And I think what we've seen with a lot of these Blur bidded collections is that some of the long-term holders are taking it as a chance of liquidity, exiting their positions, and dumping into those that are actively bid farming, right? So again, it's incentivized activity that is kind of playing a bit of havoc on the market. And until that Blur incentivization goes away with rewards, you're not necessarily going to see the normal conditions or more less volatile conditions within NFTs. So it's interesting. It does open some accessibility. It does open some opportunity to place some bets on collections that you may not have been able to do so, but it also puts a bit of risk, right? So you get into a situation that you may not be familiar with in doing these type of things. So I suggest anyone that's considering it to explore Twitter, explore the threads that are going to be out there, and just be aware of what it's at. And also keep in mind that these are daily rates. 0.02 does not seem that bad, but when it's 0.02% daily, now you're talking about something that is much more significant, right? So just make sure you're doing the math on there and going through. These collections have seen some pretty decent volume and some positive moves on floor prices. Milady, the most part, but Milady has been sort of tied to the success of Pepe over the last little while. As a collection that supposedly originated Pepe and at least taking a lot of claim there and part and part why there's some of that pump going on there. But not mutants, but Azuki and Punks had some short term increase in floor price once this was announced, and has since kind of tailed maybe a little bit since then. Yeah, it's really interesting. When it opens up to additional collections, mutants, maybe even smaller ones, it's going to really open up the accessibility to some of these collections and allow people to have their long-awaited PFP that they might not have been able to afford, and in that scenario also produce some unexpected behaviors in the market. So we'll see how it all plays out. Yeah, I'm gonna take a pause there. Welcome, Danksy, to the stream. Any questions, comments, thoughts to those that are here? No worries. I'm going to take a look at market activity. So volumes, again, continue to trend downward. OpenSea, lowest volumes that they've experienced until June of 2021. So OpenSea is in a bit of a world of pain. Really, the trading activity that's happening on OpenSea is smaller collections. And they still have a good majority of the trading volume, but the overall ETH volumes are quite low. Blur is also down to kind of pre incentivized activity trading for the most part, and they trend down. This catalyst here for today and what they've introduced, and I believe they have one other item that they're introducing here today will change how maybe that outlook looks. Maybe stir a little bit of interest and activity. We'll see. Unique buyers, sellers, again back down to where we saw that real hard dip around the 19th. Kind of very similar here to close out April, and again on a monthly basis, kind of towards what trend looked like. But when you look at it on a daily basis, it is a bit stunning, a little bit shocking. But just because there isn't a lot of unique wallets trading on a daily basis doesn't mean NFTs are dead. It just means that people are maybe focused otherwise, and gas prices are high. Pepe is burning up the market. Pepe has been heavily watched, analyzed, traded within B3L, and hopefully there's been some great successes there. With anything in the meme coin territory, it's always a proceed with caution. The volatility, the swings that you can get on those collections can be a lot more dramatic, and liquidity within those collections are sort of within the coin is a lot less. So always proceed with caution. B3L and the what Borchilla is doing, etc. Those are his trades, but be aware what's being done, and there's been some great success, but there's also a lot more risk associated with that. So yeah. looking at collections, I wanted to take a look at um, a couple of floor prices. Azuki, actually, Doodles, seen that brief short-term pump. That was really a pretty large sweep that occurred on the bidding side of it, and resulted in some short-term movement. There is a bit of blur floor dump risk within Doodles, but positive to see that they have almost escaped the trend that they've been on, this long downward trend really since beginning of the year, and even further back. So good to see that there's a bit of a relief balance there, and going to be watching that. But wanted to look at Azuki. They're on the upper side of where they've traded at in recent time. Not at their highs that they've experienced, but they're definitely trending higher. And of course, we've talked about this where that price activity is looking to probably climb towards the Vegas event. I don't know if that's accelerated now with Blur's blend activity here today. I tend to suspect that it will accelerate that a bit. So wanted to take a look at that, see where that opportunity exists. We're looking to try and break, what is that, 15 and a half, 16 ETH? We're about 16 ETH mark, and that's basically what they're holding right now. Just shy of that, so 15 and a half right now. So see if we can get a bit of a breakout on Azuki, but there could be another month here of movement. I don't know what range they have to push. We've seen in the past these kind of events and speculation that these collections can run pretty fast, and then it's a sharp decline after the event. Moonbirds, Azuki, really good examples of this in the past. So curious to see how those play out. And the other one I wanted to look at over a longer time horizon is mutants. And so mutants are at a bit of a local low from the 19th and that slowdown, but I still think they're at a overall a kind of a decent rate. And I'm a little bit disappointed that they weren't included in the blend collections. I think that they're really probably the most prime for something like that. And maybe that's for good cause, because you would get a lot of people pushing for those mutants that may not be making the most sound decisions. But like I said, I look at mutants and where they're at this 10 and a half ETH range, and historically being that's kind of their threshold of how low they go. And so this is probably a potential entry opportunity on the mutant side of things here. So looking at those, and then that's project wise. Where is our blue chip index? Bit of a relief bounce here last couple of days, and then some additional declines. So you get a positive day, and you're gonna trail that up with negative on collections, and most collections were positive yesterday, or at least that 24-hour window. And then we've seen captains and apes and mutants decline a little bit here over the last 24 hours. Doodle still looking up. Probably see. I expect there's some pullback on Doodles, just with the risk on the amount of blur items that are held there, but we'll see. I mean, they look like they finally topped out just above 2 ETH, which was looked like an attractive entry point, but it's so hard when they've taken that fall, almost 10x down from their highs. It's really tough to bite on something like that where not a lot of positives coming out, but starting to get a little bit there. So what's up, Danksy? Anything to add? Anything you want me to talk about? What's your thoughts here? Just watching Pepe. Yeah, no, I feel that. Thanks for saying that. Hasn't been in the NFT game here the last little bit, and you know, other than trading existing collections, there's not a lot uh, driving excitement, driving the market here within NFTs, and that's really a sign with the decrease in volume and a decrease of traders. I think most are happy to wait and see and feel things out. And a lot of NFT traders have probably gotten the bug of meme coins, Pepe, uh, etc., and that's capturing attention there. So I've been following it quite a bit as well. It's a ton of fun to do so, especially when you get these wild uh, candles and pretty crazy moves. Of course, I am not a TA expert, and I don't imagine the dynamics on Pepe are quite as consistent. But uh, interesting level here at 8.3. Did it take down on there? No, that's potentially where we are headed here. Trend and resistance, and previous all-time high at 8. So 0.08 is an interesting mark for me. As much as Blur has provided a bit of chaos into the market, um, I do really enjoy the ingenuity that they our innovation that they're bringing to the NFT space, um, and the efforts that they're continuing to put into elevating their platform. And as we work in the NFT space, we just got to be aware of those dynamics and how they impact collections. It's much more apparent to be aware of if there's any large blur uh, bid holdings and what impacts that can play in, and it becomes a really important consideration in entering some of these collections, and sometimes that's probably the most important factor. So there's been some tracking and stuff like that that's been done on that. I'm not sure, the ease of ability to build something like that and have it operate on a timely function, but I know there are discords out there that's focused solely on just the activity and the coming and going of uh, blur bid whales and things like that as well. What's up, AP and C4? Thanks for stopping in. Again, if you have any questions or have anything that you want me to talk about, feel free to put it in public VC chat, and we can talk and discuss it. Otherwise, I've covered most of what I wanted to go through here, at least on a kind of a market recap and talking about uh, Blur. It's going to take a bit to fully digest the name of it, but Blend. Think of Blur and Lend combined there, but how that may kind of play throughout collections um, as it's kind of expanded to additional collections. You could think that, you know, apes. Apes obviously there's a lot of that goes on in Bend Down. I don't know if there's anything that makes sense that they focus on collections to kind of diversify what's available out in the lending side of it. But what's key on here is that it's peer-to-peer lending, and that those loans aren't forced into auction per se when the floor price drops, but they're forced into auction when the lender decides to call it, and no one else is going to pick up or offer a bid on what they're willing to lend you, right? So you can assume that if your loan is called, and so you've purchased an Azuki at 2.2 at a 10% APY, and it's called, and that lender decides that they need their liquidity. Now you're forced to find someone else. I think it's safe to say that there's probably always going to be uh, those that are out there willing to lend at a very high rate of interest to allow you to keep that. So maybe that's something like, I think it goes up to something like 1,000 APY, but you're probably going to see that 80, 90, whatever kind of constant APY, maybe 100% APY that's always available to you. But if that's not picked up, then it's a force liquidation of that NFT, which would likely just be an immediate bid acceptance, and then it closes out the loan on that, right? And now, if your NFT goes into that event, I'm not sure exactly what happens. So if it's a forced liquidation, you've got your 2.25 ETH in there. Do you only get the difference? If there is a difference, I would assume something like that, right? So if the floor price is down in ETH, you get whatever proceeds are available in excess, just like selling the NFT, right? So something like that. Now, if the floor price is up since when you bought, then maybe you get a bit of an increase on your ETH, but it's basically like making that trade on floor price based on where you picked it up at. So there is some risk involved there. Maybe you're caught with a higher APY, and that APY I assume comes off the value of the ETH that you put in. So if you're in there at 100% APY, then you're paying that interest, and it's taking off the value of what you owe on the NFT. I'm not sure if it forces you to put in a monthly amount of ETH to maintain. So we'll continue to research that and try to get a clearer understanding, and see how that impacts. But it's just another tool and another element in the Blur side of things that is quite interesting. Something that I'm working on and will be working on this week here. A couple things that I'm working on. First off, I've spent a bunch of time on trying to build out floor metrics or project metrics um, for kind of analyzing daily project metrics and time horizon metrics for collections to try and get some insights kind of around the whole idea of what's going on for blur bidding, etc. Whales moving in and out, things like that, to provide some insights into NFT collections. So that's something I've worked on, and actually most of this was done last week. But like I said, I got quite ill and haven't been able to follow up on that. But we'll continue to work there. And then the other part that we want to be able to produce here is a kind of similar to what we do here when it's a quieter public VC, but produce a 15, maybe a 20-minute video on recent activity in the NFT market, top stories, as well as interesting trends. Not a lot indifferent to what you see from NFT statistics. Really enjoy the content that's put out by that team, basically the Proof team and Sam over there. I watch those videos daily and take a lot of interest in the content that he's producing. He is working tirelessly at some of the analytics and metrics that he produces. I'd like to think I'm probably a faster data analyst, but he is probably a little bit more effective at pulling insights, and that could just be a time versus output kind of scenario versus what I'm able to do versus what he's doing. So, but we're going to continue to try and drive some of those insights and metrics and be able to produce some of that content. There's a lot of interest in I think it's very valuable to spend time trying to understand the market conditions, the macro, and really understand what's going on in the terms of the trends within the NFT market. And those are kind of the things that I like to try and surface. Now, Danksy, what's the max LTV? Is that lifetime value or long-term value for blend? Are you saying like the max terms that you can lend? Loan to value. I think it varies a little bit here. So I've seen as high as 45 ETH on a punk. So that's what, 70%, maybe a bit higher. Actually, that's close to 85, 90%. But without having one of those collections, I can't test it. I don't know if it says somewhere easy there. But yeah, 70% would make a lot of sense on it. Let's see if we have thing on blend here. If not, we can hit up Blur Twitter and see if we can get the detail there. So a lot of threads and activity on Blur here today, and how they're consistently changing the market. So 42 ETH. Okay, so 42 ETH, and that was at, let's see what it shows in here. $42 ETH to me seems like that's higher than 70%. So maybe it could be 85. All right, so the example on the punk here is that it was worth 50, and it's boring up to 42 on it. Now, there isn't the forced liquidations from floor crashes. I'm not sure if that's in relationship to the amount of value that's in the pools, or how that fully translates. You can see there transaction, actually that's just one, but they have Blur bidding, and then they have Blur lend, I believe I saw on Etherscan, and you can see the transactions that exist there with the NFTs that are being traded in lend. So the borrower can also exit their what they're being borrowed, and then they can re-enter as well. So you pay back what you owe, and then you could add in there, or get in and borrow from someone else if the rates have changed. So that's interesting. So they basically have a lending pool. Liquidation. So if a position is underwater or at risk, then the refinancing auction may fail to find a lender. That happens, the borrower is liquidated and the lender takes possession of the collateral. I wonder if there's a little bit more clarity on this. So as you're being liquidated from your position, you don't take another loan on, then you return the NFT, and that is the end of what is done. And I assume you do not get back what you initially put in. And then the person that borrowed gets that NFT, right? So if you've lent an Azuki, you get back an Azuki. Other comments, questions? Jeffy, welcome. Let's see who else we have here. Again, if you have any questions, you don't have to go on voice. Just put it into public VC chat. We can go through and try to answer some of them. Again, Blend is all pretty new. I'm not super active or familiar on the NFT lending side of things, but it's going to be an interesting dynamic to hit as it kind of basically opens it up to more people. And then if not, then we will wind down the session and likely do another one here towards the end of the week, either Thursday or Friday. But like I said, just wanted to start this week off active and fresh after being ill last week. I didn't get a session in last week, so. The real question is, what's going to be the next NFT collection to run, and does that even happen until meme coin season slows down? Or as some would say, is it Milady already? Which I'll disagree, but they've been on quite the run. That was wild, that clap. Thank you.
Thanks, Rotes.
Appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. Glad you
Appreciate
can make
your
it.
input, man.
Hey, thank you. Again, if there's anything that's of interest that maybe I'm not covering in these sessions, or if you have a general question regarding trends in the market or whatever, feel free to just at me. Especially if you think it's something that is interesting. Average holder duration of a collection or whatever it may be. Those are the kind of things I like to dig into, and sometimes it's those ideas that are super valuable. So, but otherwise, like I said, we'll get at this here later in the week. Also, look towards some form of weekly video content to come out, kind of like a current market trends, NFT stories, etc. Not much indifferent to what's being done by 6529, but with our own flavor, to kind of take the daily forms that I put out into more of a easy consumable format. So we'll catch you guys later, and we'll see you next time.
Can't help myself.
never, I've never experienced them. It's pretty,
I
it's pretty
just
sweet.
found it.
Yeah, I didn't know it was such a thing.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
We're gonna have to make some Bridge 3 ones.
Right?
I'm gonna come.